Good morning. It is Sunday, August 20th, 2023. Now, it sounds like there should be some fanfare there or something, right?
We'll add it in post.
Fix it in post. I remember in film school, if you ever said that, it was instant failure because they said, nope, get the shot right, get the audio right. You're not fixing it in post.
Wait. Film school?
Yeah.
How did I not? Did you tell me that? And I'm just spacing because I haven't had enough coffee.
I was a radio, television, film major at Long Beach State, California.
Wow.
I was going to be a great writer-director someday.
I knew that. I didn't know there was actually but money was handed over to the professors.
I went to the same school and dropped out of the same school that Steven Spielberg did.
That's fantastic. Was that your plan? That's the university I'm gonna drop out of.
Yeah, so I could be as good as Spielberg. Let's see. Before we get into the introductions, let me get this story out of the way. Right. When I went to film school. I graduated high school in '86, and that's when Spielberg was making all the awesome movies. And it's all I wanted to do was tell stories. I wanted to write screenplays. I wanted to direct movies. And that was it. And I did fine in film school. The rest of my college classes I was not so good at. And then I had a advanced script screenwriting class that I took early in my, I think I went to there maybe three years. And I had this writing teacher for a couple different classes. And at one point he said, Dan, you are going to have no problem being a professional writer in Hollywood with your talent. So I said, thank you very much, Professor. I proceeded to walk down the administration building and dropped out of school.
That's great.
Because I figured I don't need to go to school anymore. I'm not a very scholastic guy. I never enjoyed school.
What your family was supportive of that?
No.
Did they do anything in the creative fields?
No. My dad worked in the aerospace industry and my mom was a mom.
And you were just like, but I want to make stuff.
Yeah. My dad was very creative. I'm not very creative, but very encouraging. My parents were very encouraging of me. They encouraged me to play Dungeons and Dragons. They encouraged my comic books. My dad bought me a Super 8mm film camera. He bought me the video camera before anybody else. No other 13-year-old had a video camera. And back then they weren't on your phone.
Right.
They were these huge things. So, my dad encouraged it very much so. He didn't understand it. He didn't read anything I wrote. He didn't watch anything I made. But he said, damn it, if my kid wants to do this, I'm going to, let my kid do this. And
wow,
he paid for me to go to school, but I didn't tell him I dropped out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He just kind of figured it out.
How far along did you go before, how many years did you do before you were like, okay, this is not for me?
I did maybe two and a half at the university level. And then I went back and took a couple community college classes.
Does any of the stuff that you were kind of resistant to, do you look back and go, oh, that was actually pretty useful? Or you go, yeah, it was the right call?
I should have finished to finish. Yeah. Just to have a degree, I don't have a degree. So, but at this point in my life, fuck it. I'm not,
right.
It's pointless. Maybe would have hindered me. Excuse me. It would have hindered me. And stuck me in a regular corporate gig if I had a degree and was, succeeded down that lane, and then I'd be miserable. But rather, I'm creative and poor.
And we're miserable on our own path. Thank you.
Yeah. So there you go. I'm Dan Taylor, film school dropout. I dabble in. I more than dabble. I don't know. I preoccupy myself. I obsessed with. I don't know. I like the role playing games, tabletop role playing games such as Dungeons and Dragons, and I create stuff for them, as well as comic books and other assorted things. And I'm going to try my mute button. Okay.
I heard everything. I heard the entire cough.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, how about now, you asshole?
Okay, I heard that too.
Oh, damn it. Okay, I got to figure out what mute's not working. Okay. Hey, you know what?
We just got demonetized.
You know what?
What's
we'll
that?
fix it. We'll fix it in post.
That's a good idea. If you fail.
I don't know where I was. So who the hell are you, Steve?
The hell am I? Am Steve Conley. I write and draw the webcomic The Middle Age, which you can read on Webtoons, Tapas, Go Comics, and my own website at middleagecomic.com. And when I'm not doing that, I am a freelance illustrator, and I create TTRPG content, including the Emmy-nominated Intoximancy, the not nominated Death Dealing, and the ideally soon to be kickstarted Meta Domain Cleric. And that's who the hell I am. No, I haven't dropped out of any. What have I dropped out of? Not much. I took longer than it took to get a 2-year degree, but that's about it. Yeah, I think I took 3 years to get a 2-year degree.
Hey, I officially, I shouldn't say I dropped out. I'm on sabbatical.
Nice.
And I've currently been on sabbatical for some 40 years or so. No, not 40 years. About 30 years. So
the longest Rumspringer ever.
Apparently, now that I live in Tennessee, though, if I choose to, at this point in my life, to go back to college to get a degree, Tennessee will pay for it.
Fantastic.
I'm just not going to do it. I get it. But you can do it all online, too, and it's so much easier. See, back in my
you're not going to do it.
Back in my day, I had to go to the campus. I had to park. I had to pay for parking. You know, I had to hike. I had to buy textbooks. You know, it was, now you just go online, take a couple little, you know, multiple choice quizzes for every class. And because I work with kids who are still in college now, and that's how they do it. So I'm like, and I get to, you know, relish in my stories of back in my day, you know.
They love that.
Yeah. And then I make them listen to 80s alternative music too. So
we've done the Pencil to Pencil podcast where we talk about comic books and the comics business. Every time someone talks about zip discs or stack machines or something like that, I want the screen to go black and white. I want it to be grainy, and I want it just feels like we're speaking of like caveman, you know, Sanskrit chalk drawings, and it just feels so far removed from what people do today.
I'm pretty sure somewhere tucked away, I still have zip disc with Superhero Happy Hour on it somewhere.
Fantastic. I'm thinking there is no joke, a side quest drive not too far from my right foot right now.
So yeah, here, this is Mazes and Muses, and this is where Steve and I kind of pump each other up and, you know, convince each other that we're creative people and we should do creative stuff.
Yeah, I like this because it helps. You know, I think of it as starting the week. I am a late starter by nature, so this kind of gets me going early on a Sunday, which is unusual. And I really enjoy talking with you, Dan, because you bring a very iconoclastic perspective to a lot of your creations. You're generally someone I think of who isn't there like a Pippi Longstocking story where her thing was there was a barrel of apples and she would take a bite out of each one because the first bite was the best.
Yes.
So it was like out of each apple was a bite. And I feel like you have that kind of hunger as well. You're like, I want to bite out of this. I want to bite out of that. You're very you're always multidisciplinary about all the things you something interests you and you go straight for it. And I always like that because there's a lot of people I know who are like they talk. This was a suggestion I had for a friend of mine for a podcast name calling Talking a Good Game, because it feels like sometimes it's like, yeah, it's a lot of talking it out of your system instead of doing it, whereas you do it. And I always admire that because it's like, you know, the Donald of the Dead thing. You're like, this is an idea. It hit me. I'm going to do it. And before you know it, it's a thing. And you're like, you have that kind of energy. So it's always, I like talking with you about that stuff because you have that kind of.
But do I always finish? That's the problem. See, you call it, what did you call it?
Multidisciplinary?
Yeah, I call it ADD.
Or harnessing ADD in a way of like, because we're all a combination of whatever foibles we're or whatever idiosyncrasies we're composited out of. And the idea is just trying to make it's that scene in Princess Bride where what are our assets? What do we got? What are we working with here? And you're like, well, AD&D. All right. I'm gonna use that to my advantage. That's one of my assets.
Yep. But then again, your dedication to see a project through and such high caliber quality is admirable.
40 years of not finishing things. Not quite 40 years, but trying to do things that were too big my whole life. Trying to I had that there's a problem that kids have, young creators, and I'm not immune, where they'll tell you, here's my idea for my comic. Okay, it's a 5,000 issue story. We're starting at the beginning where life is emerging from this pool of water somewhere on an alien planet. It's like, whereas the best thing you could do is an 8-page short story. Like, you could do an EC comic story in 8 pages, and it's like it changes people's lives forever. Or you could do these sprawling epics that never get off the ground. And in my life, I did too many sprawling epics, and it wasn't until I know you get bothered when I say they're zines. When I decided to do this zine, it is like you could see like the zine grows into something bigger than it was. And if I started with epic and that was going to grow bigger than it was supposed to, it never gets done. So I feel like these bite-sized ish things are definitely where I need to focus. If I try to do something bigger than that, I'll fall on my face. So it's not so much. It's more about knowing my limitations, my extreme limitations, and being a coward mostly.
Hey, being a coward is what keeps us alive. Right.
So you were talking about last week. You came back from Gen Con, and I love that conversation. I've rewatched. I haven't rewatched a lot of episodes. I rewatched that one because I really enjoyed it. You've got to play Tales of the Valiant.
Yes.
So, brand new RPG 5e variant sort of thing from Kobold Press. And what did you think of it?
I enjoyed it very well. It was close enough, and it was a I didn't get deeply entrenched into it because we only had like 2 hours to play it, and I think we even did it as a speed run, so we finished it up in an hour. But it was close enough to Dungeons and Dragons that I felt very comfortable playing it. I didn't explore. I played a mage or a wizard, I think. Which I usually don't do in D&D, but they had pre-generated characters, and it was okay. Grab this one, but I didn't play it enough to say this is what I prefer about it over Dungeons and Dragons, or this is where Dungeons and Dragons still does it better. It's what I liked about it is there is a certain freshness to it, in a sense that I don't know. It's hard to explain or put my finger on, but it's not. It's it's like, oh, D&D. Okay, we do this. You go through the same things, and yet you go through the same. You do similar things we did in this Tales of the Valiant game. There was, I don't know. Maybe I just like the new car smell of it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
A freshness to it, and there's not a lot of baggage to it yet. Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition has been around for a while now. There's all sorts of third-party stuff, and I did play a third-party D&D thing also at Gen Con, and that was very enjoyable too because it was different enough from regular D&D, but it was set definitely D&D mechanics and rules. But Tales of the Valiant is very similar to D&D mechanic rules, so I don't think I don't know how it's going to play out for them. I don't know if it's different enough to where it'll succeed, or if it's similar enough to where it'll succeed, or if the difference or similarities will be a hindrance to its success. Do you feel like it's a Pathfinder thing where Pathfinder seemed four had to be unpopular? They basically, so three was fine. People liked 3. Pathfinder is like, okay, you've got a license to do a variant of 3. 4
basically WotC goes off and does 4, leaving the field open for Pathfinder to succeed. Do you feel like that's kind of Tales of the Valiant's best chance? Is if whatever 1D&D 6, whatever the nebulous thing that WotC's working on now, which, we're optimistic that it's going to be a good thing. We're optimistic that there'll be an OGL or something similar, or Creative Commons option. I heard Sly Flourish was still talking about the optimism about there being an OGL or Creative Commons version of whatever the new thing is. Can we call it 6? What do we call it? Can we pick a name that we call it on the show?
Yeah, let's just call it 6th edition for now.
6th edition. So if 6th edition is tanks, which we don't want, but is that Tales of the Valiant's best opportunity?
I think Tales of the Valiant is it's not going to be a Pathfinder. I'll just throw that out there right there. I think Pathfinder was lightning in a bottle in a sense.
Really?
That it just took off in a way that it did, and it scratched a niche that players like. I mean, now with Pathfinder 2, Starfinder and all that sort of stuff, it's definitely its own thing and its own, its own game. It's not a D&D clone so much. We'll see what Tales of the Valiant. I think it might just be a way for people to play Dungeons and Dragons again without all the luggage and baggage,
right?
The D&D has,
right. So right. So when they say it's compatible, I don't know what they mean with stuff like that. Like, can someone bring their Silvery Barbs character? And I always love it because to me that's what it's the it's the Jeremy Irons of spells from modern Dungeons and Dragons it's such a obvious mistake. It's so overpowered, and you can just tell, even with Critical Role, Marisha Ray's character has it, and you can just tell Mercer's like, it's a legit spell. It's in the Adventurers League. You can't undo it you can't remove it from reality. But it's so overpowered and broken that it would be nice to play a system where the table just doesn't outright forswear it, like doesn't ban that spell at the table. It'd be nice to play a fresh system that doesn't have all that.
Again, again, like I've brought this up so much. It's a DM's call, like on that. I don't. If Silvery Barb if I didn't like it in my game, I would just say, oh, but it doesn't exist.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
I am not beholden to any official rule in Dungeons and Dragons or any role-playing game to use it in my game. Again, the Dungeon Master's Guide is called the Guide. It points you in the right direction. It doesn't make you walk that direction.
And so you were talking at one point about wanting to maybe be an early adopter of a Tales of the Valiant supplement, maybe being like the first in line or early in line to is that something you'd still like to do, or is that something you're like less excited about now, given how things are shaking up with WotC?
I still want to do it, if not just for the exposure. I'd rather jump into the pool before it gets too crowded.
And that not so much because the game system excites you, but because of that D&D fame thing we were talking about.
Exactly. Because I'm not, Wizards of the Coast, you messed it up so many times. I want a new fresh thing, which I kind of think is how Tales of the Valiant began, because it was during all that whole hoopla and, dust up about, the SRDs and licensing and all that sort of stuff. So, I'm very much, because I'm working on something right now, and I think I might do 2 editions. It's because with Zero Level Media is my little publishing type of thing. And all adventures start in a tavern. So I'm going to work on a tavern that I'm going to do set for D&D, and also do a version for Tales of the Valiant. I don't think it'll look that much different.
Right. I don't know if it needs to, right?
Yeah. I mean, the fluff will all pretty much be the same. The stat blocks might be a little different because there's not, you know, I don't believe Tales of the Valiant are so as heavy on, you know, those sort of things are kind of streamlined a little bit. It's just my feeling, my gut feeling. Again, I didn't play the game enough and really jump into it. So, you know, and I would love, you know, that big, huge, you know, Warrenhold city map that I've shown off before. I would love to do that for Tales of the Valiant, just to have, you know, something and utilize it because it took so much of my time to make. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I would, again, you know me, I just like to create. And I like to create new stuff. And I like, you know, Tales of the Valiant is new. It's got that new game smell and it's got that new fresh coat of paint on it. It's not scratched up yet.
Right.
Let me get in there and, you know, back it into a utility pole before anybody else and you know, scuff it up. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And how do you plan on just making that something for your Patreon folks? How do you think you're going to deal with that? Or are you just kind of too early to tell?
Right now, my basic plan with Patreon is Patreon. I will put the progression of everything I work up on Patreon, and you know, just, you know, I'm asking for $3 a month. Just, I'm not going to pay rent with this. I don't have to pay rent, and B, you know, it's beer money, but I don't drink beer, so I'm not worried about that much, you know.
Right.
But that $3 a month from, you know, supporters is encouragement, because it's, you know, someone saying, hey, you know, keep going. That's what it's more. And it costs money to do this sort of stuff. You know it.
Sure.
But I will release it through my Patreon, and then whoever's not a Patreon will get the finished product other avenues, such as drive-through RPG and stuff.
Right.
But if you're a patron, you know, let's say if I price something at $9 and you were a patron for, you know, after they take, you know, we'll just say 3 months, you'd get it for free.
That's nice.
You
That's
know,
really nice. Yeah.
Just for hanging out with me, and I'll have that sheet, that, you know, Excel spreadsheet saying, no, Steve was only for 2 months. He doesn't get this product.
Right.
Maybe if he's on for another month, I'll kick it to him. But yeah, I mean, and like one of the things I'm working on, let me show you real quick.
Oh, please.
This is the work cover in progress. And I'm using a lot of Dean Spencer art for this because he's such a good artist, and he had a sale on his art, and his artwork is kind of, you know, it's got that D&D look.
I don't know who that is.
He's on a drive-through, and he does artwork like this. And he, you know, it's for, you know, game resources for publishers. So anyway, here's what we got. This is my surly bartender, the Sword and Board Tavern and Inn.
I'm not seeing anything. At least not in the main interface.
Yeah, it's not coming up on that main interface either.
Was it coming up on the Twitch?
Let me see.
I'm opening Twitch in another window. We'll see. Although I'll probably see an ad first. There we go.
So it's kicking us off to the side, but it's not showing. Again, we're going to have to fix this in post.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, okay. Oh, it just takes a while. Okay. So there you go. So I'm going to come up with all the fluff about how he's got that horrible scars on his face and what kind of guy he is and what kind of, you know, tavern and inn he runs. Again, you know, like I just like designing stuff. So maybe I just did this to come up with a Sword and Board Tavern and Inn logo. And then working on a map of it. Let me find that. Give it a little.
I love that. I love that there's that there's a piece of artwork already, and that you're writing a story around it that feels very much like the old pulps.
Yeah,
where they are like, here's the cover artworks. Who's going to write a story about it?
Now I'm waiting for this to pop up. Is it going to pop up?
There it is.
Okay. So that's the floor plan for it. Now, this is where I need your help, Steve, and anybody who happens to be watching this. And For the record, I would like to say that we are not only on Twitch right now, but we are also on Facebook, and we are currently on YouTube. So
hello, everybody, and hello, Velixian.
We're syndicated.
Multicasting.
So here's my layout for the tavern and for the Sword and Board Tavern and Inn. Let's see if I got They'll point out little things. So here's the main tavern part. We got the kitchen, we got this guy's office, storage, private rooms, etc. And then you go up these stairs on the other side here, and then you go up to the inn portion. But here's a more luxurious, relaxing part of the tavern. These are various rooms. This looks down at the bar below. This is a rug, not a table, though in this small image it looks like a big, huge table. And then underneath, since he's a dwarf and he's got other dwarfs, he's kind of, he's got a super cool basement, a man cave, a dwarf cave. His office is here, so there's a trap door into this rug that drops into that little secret room. There's a trap door into this table in case somebody needs to hide out. If anybody needs more secretive rooms other than the inn up here, they could stay down here. His cousin is a brewer. So we got a little brewery working down here, and he's an alchemist too. So he's working on some stuff. Here's some storage. This, I don't know if it's a well or if it's some sort of well, or if it's some sort of portal yet, or I don't know. I just needed to, we'll see how that works out.
Okay, so stop. Let's pause there for a second. You put it on the map, and you didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So you're just like, you have an empty room, and you have a symbol, and you're like, I'm gonna put that there, and I'll figure out what it is later.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I do it a lot of my stuff. I'm like, I'll figure out the fluff later and the crunch later, but here's what it is. And then, but here I've got an empty room. What am I going to put in this room, Steve? What makes sense?
That's so down and dirty. I love it so much. There was back when you worked at USA Today, there was an artist I work with, Marty Bowman. He's with Pixar now and Disney and all that. He's amazing because there would be a thing where we worked the night shift trying to get news graphics done. And so it was a terrible story about an airline went down and an airplane went down. And it's like, well, we're going to tear up a page in the newspaper. We're going to need it. And he says, well, let's get to it. He said, start working on the graphic. And I'm like, well, what do we do? He said, well, we know it had wings. He's like, we just start drawing airplane wings because we didn't know what kind of aircraft it was yet, but we knew it had wings. And to me, that's this thing that I have in my head, like ever since, has been like, what do we know and what can we start on even if we don't know the whole story yet? And I feel like what you've done there with that could be a pool, could be a fountain,
a dimensional gate,
just a summoning circle.
Yeah,
we know it's got something in that room. Let's put something in there.
I have no idea yet. So,
are you able to zoom in so we can see that basement level?
I don't think so. Let's see. Look at that.
Look at that. Look at us. We're so high tech. Dude, this is fantastic.
So this is and then there's a little desk with a stool in case, if people pop out, maybe he takes their, passports or something. I don't know. Or this is where the wizard sits to summon creatures, or this is, who knows?
Velixion has an idea in chat.
What's that?
It says Velixion, I can't tell from here whether it's coming in on Twitch or...
It turns metal into flesh?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it could.
It does look like it's definitely a sitting room. Like there's a chair with a lamp behind it, and you're just watching whatever gets summoned there.
Yeah, this is a little desk with a stool. I'll have a key for it, but when I decided I needed a brewery, I had no idea how to design brewery stuff at that time. But this is what it looks like,
Did you do some research for that?
I put D&D brewery map.
Nice.
And I thought, okay, I just figured I'll just put a lot of these, barrels in there, and that'll make sense.
Yeah, I think I love how old school this looks.
Yeah. I love old school maps because as beautiful as all the color maps and all the new maps tend to be, they're just too crowded for me.
Well, and sometimes it's weird lighting like this. Everything's getting lit from a 45-degree angle. It's casting unusual shadows, and suddenly you don't know what's on top of each other because that's casting a shadow. Does it block line of sight? I know there's weirdness that we can't tell from these. Like, is this thing, how tall is this thing? Is it 3 feet tall or is it 10 feet tall? Does it block line of sight? Can I hide behind it? Okay, here's another thing for me. When you're dealing with a map like this and you've got 4 people sitting around a table and they're going to plant their icons, their minis down on the map, how do you determine which box? Do you ever care about that? Like, if I'm putting there's a table here with 4 chairs around it, does each chair need to be in its own grid? No. You don't care about that?
No, each grid is 5 feet. I just try to make the furniture look, to scale.
Right.
And again, this is not set, this is not strict. This is how it has to be. I mean, maybe that, since the guy's a dwarf, maybe that bed's not actually that long. It cuts off around here, but I'm not going to.
Right. That's a California king size dwarf bed.
Yeah, I'm not going to dick around with that sort of stuff. And most of the time, this is just a reference. I don't design them to be used as battle maps. I design them as reference for the DM.
Gotcha.
So I figure if the DM's going to use this, he's going to go, okay. And then he'll get out his, vinyl graph mat with his wet erase markers and draw a quick representation of this on it.
Right. Or import it to Foundry or VT or
exactly. And that's, I don't use it. I don't design it for battle map. I design it for a reference more than not.
Gotcha. And Elixion adds, if it's a sitting room, I think we're talking about the portal room. If it's a sitting room, it could be an animation spell meant to make dolls and act a play. I was thinking about the same thing, where that circular thing totally reminded me of the that little pedestal in the Millennium Falcon or in Star Wars, where there's all these, not to get to the holiday special, but where suddenly there's all these dancers or whatever that's appearing on top of that.
What I could do, and this is what I could do. I could add more benches and chairs and stools in here, and that's like, it's like a cockfight, but it's but with little demons or little imps or stuff like that.
Closets going at it.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, okay, that might very well what it turns into, or maybe maybe I use that as a game. Maybe turn this into the cockfight room. I don't know. But now I'm in, abyssal chickens just doing it out with each other. I do like that one. I do like that. That's the suggestion, Alexia, and that's.
But I do. Whatever you decide, I really hope abyssal chickens is. The final decision, because I think that's amazing.
And what some fun things I'm gonna do, like I said, since this is going to be more of a book type thing, I'll do a menu for the all the stuff they make in the kitchen. I'm gonna do a drink menu for it. I want to have all these NPCs with, because I bought a bunch of Dean's art with this, because he's, like I said, he's running 25% off, and I went. And I just bought art. Okay, that guy looks cool. I'll come up with a story later. Oh, that guy looks cool. I'll come up with a story later.
That's great.
Just bought some little filler art. And so it's going to have this supplement will have a consistent look of just this artist art in it, rather than a hodgepodge of all except for my, Dyson ripoff maps here.
Excellent. I think it's great. I do like your logo too. I think that's quite nice.
So that's what I'm working on, and it's definitely going to be a D&D book, and it tells of the Valiant once I get a better idea of how they're going to structure and how they're running their third-party stuff.
Right.
I don't know all the details of it yet, but I could definitely whip this out now and put it out on directly. But I do have a Patreon if anyone is interested in it. See Valexian, and you got to be a player in one of my campaigns. I like the cut of your jib, or giblet, since we're talking about the abyssal chickens. So this will be on my Patreon. It's 0 level Patreon. It's up. We'll have links somewhere. Eventually, we'll get professional enough where I throw links up here and stuff, or put them in show notes. Fuck show notes.
Well, I think if. Well, we'll have those in in Twitch. Don't they have like a whole about section with tiles and things like that?
Yeah. I just got to finish doing all those. I don't have enough time, Steve. I got a wife. I got a kid. I got two
I've got some
dogs,
chickens to feed. I
two
understand.
cats. I got a day job.
Dogs and
I
whole
got
menagerie.
a D&D comedy show I got to run. I got a failing crowdfunding comic book campaign to run. I've got I'm I'm gonna finish my first draft of my novella in a couple weeks too, Steve. I'm working
That's
on a
what I'm talking
novella.
about. Keeping your head on a swivel. You have a. Is there a? Okay, I have to jump back. I want to stay at a moment just because we got off of Gen Con just for a moment, and you had played the Tales of Valley. You said you played a second game.
Yes.
What was that game?
It was Dungeons and Dragons, and give me 1 second. I've got the book now. I can show it to you real quick.
I'll vamp.
I'm gonna disappear.
All right, I'll be here.
I hope I remember to wear pants because I got to get up.
I'll miss you. So folks want to check out what I do. My name's Steve Conley. I write and draw webcomics called The Middle Age. If you check out middleagecomic.com, Webtoons and Tapas and Go Comics. And my latest crowdfunding thing is a D&D book called Metadomain Cleric. You can find it at prayershandbook.com. And we're back.
What'd I miss?
So exciting.
Okay. Boom. Legacy of Mana. Now it says 5th edition.
Huh.
And it's adventure in a world where no magic is safe. And it's a campaign book. It's for D&D, and it's a beautiful.
Wow, very pretty.
Yeah. Solid D&D book.
Who's the publisher?
The publisher is Linvander Studios at www.linvander.rocks.
Okay.
And the reason I did this was because the guy, one of the, let's see what if we got in here. Tommy Gofton, who's the game design amongst a few others, is going to be one of my players in the Game Hole. Catacombs and Comedians presents Catacombs and Creators game that I'm going to have. So I never got a chance to meet Thomas at Gen Con because he was a very busy man and Gen Con is very chaotic. But I did sit in and play there, and it was a very fun game. I liked the variations they had on magic and psionics, and I played a rabbit-type humanoid creature that was a ranger that shot flintlock rifles and pistols.
So how did you find Thomas to bring him into Catacombs and Creators?
Gamehole Con was working with me, and there was kind of a mess up, and they didn't save any space for me. And Thomas has a streaming studio set up in one of the rooms at the show. And he says, "Oh, I can volunteer my studio." So, okay, since you're volunteering your studio, you can play.
That's excellent.
Yeah,
that's excellent. And because of that, you sign up for one of his games over at Gen Con, and you got to play it. And so, how did you get Did you have his book before you played the game, or during the game, or after the game? Did you go to their booth and buy the book?
Yeah, exactly. Except I bought it on Amazon afterwards because I lost my ATM card at the show. So I bought it on Amazon later.
And that takes me to a question I was wondering about. Do you think it's something that you're going to want to do at a future Gen Con? Is host a game like that? Apart from the presentations when you're on a stage and doing something live, do you want to do more of the, hey, here's our sword and board tavern, we're gonna run a sword and board module?
Yes, exactly. In fact, that's what I'm doing with Gary Con in March. I'm running Flagon's Fungin, and it's just for regular people that can sign up and play at my table.
Not a streaming thing, just
not streaming, not with celebrities or creators or comics. It's just regular people who want to sit down and have me DM a module because I'm working. Let's go to the whiteboard and see all the things Dan's working on. Because I'm working on a module that I'm going to release called Flagon's Fungin, and it's based off of all the adventures I've had at the Catacombs and Comedians show and things like that. So that's not going to be as hard to make as I may have to be, because I've already run various adventures based on Flagon's Fungin.
Yeah, I figured there's a lot of the early D&D books, like Fiend Folio and Unearthed Arcana, which were kind of collections of essays that were created for Dragon Magazine and White Wolf, I think, all these various publications. So it was assembled, basically written piecemeal, and then assembled into a book. And I feel like you have enough material for sure to take the elements you've got already that you've been crafting all along, and just put two covers.
Rather than running these through regular play tests, like most reputable, respectable companies do, I play test them on stage in front of live audience with comedians that don't know how to play D&D. So if I can get it to work there, I can get it to work anywhere, is my philosophy.
That's great. Do you see yourself having a booth at Gen Con next year, or you think, no, not yet? Do you see yourself having a booth at any of these conventions, or is it mostly always going to be something where you show up? Do you feel like it's something I'll be on stage, or I'll be hosting games, things like that?
Yes, both.
Both? All right. I'm wondering how you manage that at some point, where I guess you bring on your team of minions who will manage the booth while you're off.
Yeah, I hire you to be my booth bitch. So when I'm off DMing, and you can peddle your little
I'm
zine.
sure
you can peddle your little zines while I'm gone.
I'm sure by the time that rolls around, you can afford me.
Yeah, no, I like to do it all, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, this is my first Game Hole Con, and I'm doing a show. I'd like to be invited as guest eventually to these things, which would make it easier.
Sure.
To pull off. I don't see myself being like when I was talking about my meeting with my chance meeting with Chris Perkins last show at Gen Con. I just told him I just want to be D&D famous. And he goes, well, that's possible, So I'm still waiting for my phone call from Chris to, help me be D&D famous. But
was that? Did you ask him? Will you help me be D&D famous?
I thought he would get the wink, 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 wink. No. Again, I don't have enough nice things to say about Chris Perkins. He was an absolute gentleman, and he engaged with me, and he put up with my nonsense, and I appreciate his
it feels like a little bit like, that's certainly possible. It feels like a little bit like Matt Mercer's. You can certainly try.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I fangirled all over him, and he was awesome about it. And, even when I bumped into him later that night, he didn't make fun of me. So, and he recognized me. So that was good. I don't know if
that's great.
Good thing he recognized me or bad thing. I don't know if I'm on a list now somewhere.
You said you're both going to be at Game Hole Con, so that's
yeah. And he said he'll try to check out my show. So I'm on the road to being D&D famous. Which brings me to another point. Tales of the Valiant. I would like to have one of the first streaming actual play shows with Tales of the Valiant. So I'm throwing that out there. Whoever wants to be a player on a streaming Tales of the Valiant, contact me.
Not a comedian, not with comedians.
No. Yeah, let's just do.
That does seem more doable.
Yeah.
The comedians seem to be very hard to wrangle.
They are. So I just want to do Tales of the Valiant with, people who want to play Tales of the Valiant who have good, decent setups, because no comedian has a decent home setup to stream. Imagine that.
They're in a van. They're at the Wi-Fi at McDonald's.
No, pretty much. They've got their laptop taped together with duct tape, balanced on some books on their bed with their dogs running behind them, or
sure. It's the laptop's balanced on like 3 or 4 bongs.
And one of my players rolls joints while we play. So
sure. Well, it's medicinal.
Yeah. It has to be in Tennessee. No, it can't even be that in Tennessee. So
is that true?
Yeah. Tennessee's no.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's farm country. Why can't it be like?
Yeah, they do tobacco here. That kills more people than anything you ingest in your body. So, but anyway, well, I'll have what I have against Tennessee, California Yankee and Tennessee court discussion later. But yeah, I want to do Tales of the Valiant stream. And again, I want to be one of the first. I know there's some have already popped up there, but if anybody wants to, get in on this, and you're eventually watching this on the YouTubes or the Twitters or the Twitch. I don't think it's on the Twitters because there's no Twitter anymore, or the Facebooks. Yeah, I mean, obviously you could see I can stream. So let's do this. Let's get on and do some Tales of the Valiant. I actually want to do 2. I want to do a Dungeons and Dragons one too, and I've got a big idea. I want to do an epic Dungeons and Dragons stream. Hey, this is what you say you admire about me, Steve. All these ideas that I have.
I'm with you. I'm just trying to keep up. I was writing some of this down, and at some point, I'm like, I'm out of fingers. I can't read.
And I want to do an epic Dungeons and Dragons thing about dragons. I've got a great title for it. It's a title I've had before that I finally want to use. I've got the domain name for it, so I just want to use it. And then I want to do Tales of the Valiant, since it's new and there's not that much stuff out there. I want to start that as a smaller one. So that's more of a folk hero adventure, hero's journey type of game, while the Dungeons and Dragons is going to be more epic, lots of dragons and lots of dungeons.
Do you see these as one shots? Do you see these as
ongoing campaign? I want to get these, like every other week's the other one. I can do this once a week on a Wednesday or Tuesday night.
And are you still doing your Friday games at the local game shop?
No, not so much. It's just Fridays tends to be a night where I got to do family stuff, and a lot of my players had to do family stuff.
Right.
And this was every other Friday. And to be honest with you, I wasn't getting as much return out of it as I was hoping to, as far as local community and boosting, Catacombs and Comedian shows at Zany's Comedy Club and all that sort of stuff.
Gotcha. So a lot of that, doing that on the Friday thing seemed, I wasn't sure how much of that was just like having fun and therapeutic, like, oh, this feels good to be not on stage and playing a game that's just that's emotion for the
and that's why I want to do the streams. Actual play streams is that'll help me be on stage as well. To be D&D famous, I want to be a better D&D player in front of audiences, or it's fun, running control shows. So I'm not doing this just to do. I've got a master plan for all of this, supposedly.
Like one of us does.
Yeah.
So, but do you own dndfamous.com yet?
No, I don't. I should check that out. Check that out though.
Well, I have. I think if I can share.
Are you doing anything, Steve?
I am.
Remember, I came into this show today with nothing to talk about.
Well, but I like asking questions. I find other people infinitely more interesting than I find myself, because I know all the answers to my own questions. But I've shared there the preview page, the coming soon page for my next Kickstarter. It's the sequel to Intoximancy. It's a sequel to Death Dealing. It is called the Meta Domain. It is a cleric subclass for 5e, and I'm not sure how well received it will be. It's I think it's a little more of an abstract sell than Intoximancy is a kind of easy thing to understand. A boozy wizard subclass, and then Death Dealing was a deadly card throwing rogue subclass. This one being a fourth wall bending cleric subclass is a little bit weirder. I'm hoping it's going to be the funniest one of the bunch. I'm hoping it's going to be something that will be entertaining to read, whether you play as the cleric or not, whether you play D&D or not. Or 5e or not. But so far the response has been quite nice. We've got a bunch of people sign up. I mentioned it to my Death Dealing backers, but for the most part, I just created this as a placeholder because, like we talked about, just getting people to sign up for that notify me on launch, so that when it finally does go live, that I don't know, 10% of them, 20% of them will decide to back the campaign. But
I'm going to be honest with you. I think this idea is more solid and sound than the Death Dealer.
You think it's more? I'm sorry.
Solid and sound.
Really?
Death Dealer, yes.
Because Death Dealer was. What was the trepidation about Death Dealing? Because it was just combat based, or?
No, I think this is more unique and original.
Oh, cool. Okay, this is certainly more me. It's about as me as and that's the risk, is that it's so up my alley. It's so Douglas Adamsy and Terry Pratchett-y that I think
I love the fact it's a meta domain. I love the fact that you're using the term prayer handbook.
Well, I hope there's a lot of stuff like that, and I think it's going to
You
be.
know me, I love my puns. So, yeah, I just no, it looks good because I did a Bard subclass where they use dice.
No, where did you use that?
It's on DM's Guild, I think.
A Bard subclass where they use dice.
Yeah.
In what capacity do they use dice?
Sort of like I don't know. It's been so long since I did it, and it didn't sell. I forgot all about it.
You have an entire library of stuff I'm unaware of.
Yeah, that I do, and I forget about, and I change my imprint name and move on to something different.
Oh, it's not even under. Yeah, so there's no way for me to find it.
Let me look. It might be up there. No, it's not there.
The publisher formerly known as.
I'm looking for. It's on the DM's Guild. College of Rolling Bones.
College of Rolling Bones. That's a good name.
Rollin, Rollin, apostrophe. Many say the game of life is merely a game of chance. Lucky for you, you know just how to roll the dice to better the odds in your favor. With masterful displays of dice rolling, you can change the very weave of the fabric of time and space with subtle nuance and of a true dice master, or DM, with a roll of the dice.
That's great.
Yeah.
What can you talk about? How did you? So you made that a bard.
Yeah.
What was the special sauce of that class? What was it?
When the bard's instruments are dice is my tagline.
Huh.
And let me see if I can throw this up there real quick.
I'd love to see it.
Stop your screen. Get my screen.
Excuse me.
Oop, wrong one.
And what publisher was this?
Ignore that one. That's the wrong one. Remove. Again, we're going to fix this in post, people. This is our, I want to thank you for joining us on our new YouTube experience. There you go. Look at all that stuff I did.
More from the title's contributors. I see. That's like, I had no idea. Look at all that stuff.
But anyway.
So if you click on the preview, what do we get? Excuse me.
Let's see. Making me work here. Click on preview.
You click.
Just the cover. Do I have a preview?
Gotcha. I saw the little magnifying glass. I wasn't sure if there was more than that.
No, but that's yeah. See, I got a couple one-page adventures I did here.
Nice.
I call them single sheet scenarios. And then here's a guy I did, instead of Tiger King, he's a king of tigers.
So when did you make the College of Rolling Bones? When did these projects come out?
Hell if I know. This came out in 2019.
I have no idea when I made these. That's amazing.
August 20. Hey, it's exactly to this day, 4 years ago, to this day, is when this made its appearance on Dungeon Master Guild. And see how well it did? No copper.
What is that in the? Oh, that's in the DM Guild. So I don't understand what. I guess I never look at the DM Guild's portion of these things. What does the copper thing mean in DM's Guild?
It's how much you sold,
And is is that only a DM's Guild thing, or is that a?
No, it's in drive-through. They have it too, right? Look up your thing in drive-through and see you're probably ranked something.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Isn't this fun, viewers, as we learn how to do drive-through?
This is part of it. This is all part of it. Well, that was the thing again. Like you were talking about how you should submit for the Emmy Awards. It's like you should also have you submitted for Drive Through RPG? Like I don't know, have any created account.
See, and Talk to Me is a copper bestseller.
You kidding?
No.
How do you? Okay.
You got to sell 20 copies, I think.
That's shocking. Intoximancy. I can type. Well, that's nice. Two things pop up. I don't know what copper bestseller.
Yeah. Now you can say any nominated and copper bestseller.
Oh my goodness! I assume there's that the copper is the smallest measurement, the smallest unit of measurement.
I think it's 20 for copper, it's 50 for silver, 100 for gold. There's electrum and mithril.
Based on the number of copies you sold?
Copies or dollar value or both. I'm not sure. There's somewhere you can read about it.
Yeah, I didn't know because I understand that there's supposed to be like a publisher tier or something like that, which I think once you have a second thing in the system and it sells enough, you get to be the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm not in any of that stuff. But I think I could tell you how many copies of Intoximancy has sold. If anyone's interested in that nonsense. I'm in the Publisher Hub, which is hard to find. View a sales report. I can select by just Intoximancy, and we'll go back to when it went live. I think in like November of last year. I'll go back all the way to October. Run report. I've sold 60 copies.
All right.
And naturally, the month of the Ennies was way more than ever. It was 31. So more than half were sold after the Ennie nomination.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my cut because I told you to sign up for the Ennies. Not only do I do all this stuff, I'm also a manager and agent on the side.
And it's because of that. Imagine if games only needed 20 copies to qualify as bestseller. I think that Alexi, the bar is so low in this world. Actually, the weirdest thing until I started posting things on Drive-Thru. 2 books now on Drive-Thru RPG. The idea that you post something and then you visit the site and it says there has been 20 new things or 40 new things added since your last visit. There's just such a flow of new stuff and people out there just adding stuff to Drive-Thru RPG. It's so easy to get lost in there. And I'm not one of their exclusive folks because I sell my books on my own website too. I sell PDFs off my own website, so I understand I get a higher percentage of the cut, and it unlocks other promotion opportunities. But I'm not gonna be exclusive with anybody. I can't. That doesn't seem like a logical thing to do. But I don't know. I'm certain I haven't sold that many of Death Dealing. Is maybe a handful. Yeah, 3 copies of Death Dealing off of Drive-Thru.
Loser.
It's not a copper bestseller. No, I'm absolutely happy with any of the extra stuff that comes from this world. We talked about that. I thought for sure that when you post something to a new title to Drive-Thru RPG, that like Amazon, it would say, hey, you previously purchased this from this publisher. They have a new product out. That's what Amazon does. When you upload a sequel or an author posts a new book, it tells everyone who bought something from that author before, they have a new book. Would you like to buy it? Because Amazon's just interested in moving product. How do who'd have thunk? Drive-Thru RPG doesn't do that. But they do have a system that lets you email people. Yeah. And I didn't know about that. I wish I had known that during the Ennie voting. I would have been like, hey, go vote for me. But I did that, and it said, so all the 50-something people who had purchased Intoximancy, I could message them, and it doesn't give me their email address. It doesn't tell me who they are in any way. It just sends it to them for people who have not turned off that ability. So anyone who said, I don't want to receive messages from publishers, because I imagine they've been spammed so often, So I think it went out to 20 something people. And of those 20 something people, 2 of them or 3 of them bought Death Dealing. So I don't know. Imagine once I'm a silver seller or a Electrum or whatever the heck.
Mithril.
Is that the top one?
Something, I think so. Or
Yeah.
Adamite, or I don't know.
Yeah, right. Makes me wonder what the best-selling Scholastic qualifications. Oh my gosh. Scholastic. They're a whole other world. So what's the plan for Sword and Board? Is there is a Patreon exclusive thing to start? Or...
It's going to start off on Patreon, and I'll have here's this character on one day, here's details of the map, here's a menu, and then eventually it'll all be pieced together and be a product on Drive-Thru RPG.
Sweet. And how do people find your Patreon?
Patreon.com/0 level, the numeral 0 LVL MEDIA. I think, as I destroy my office.
Oh, there it is. It's in the doobly-doo on Twitch. So it's one of the buttons down there.
Look at that. I'm ahead of the game there.
Yeah.
I have no recollection of doing that.
I know. I was like, do you have any recollection of putting together the Bard like 4 years ago? I wondered about that. Like, yeah, look at all these things I've done. I'm like, you've done so much stuff. You have enough there to collect into a book.
It's all over the place, though. There'd be no rhyme or reason as to why they're collected. And then they're all various quality. So
that's awesome.
Cool. All right. Anything else?
No, I'm excited to. I'm going to keep working on. I still Twitch. I still stream on Twitch here Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. East Coast time, where I'll be working on sculpts and artwork for Metadomain between now and that's really why I wanted that page up. So while I'm working on Twitch, I can send. This is what I'm working on. This is where it goes. Go sign up. I've never had the preview page up so early, so I'm hoping. That's just a lesson learned from this first year of doing this. And it is a year ago. It was August last year where all this stuff started. That's when we were doing our first Kickstarters for Zine Quest because they moved it to August. So it was around this time last year that both Intoximancy and your creature...
Cavalcade of creature cavalcade or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's like such. It's been a crazy year. Back before the OGL thing was even a word.
That derailed a lot of stuff on my end. But now piecing it all back together. Now
I got the renewal note from my host to say, "Hey, you got to renew Intoximancy.com." Is that something? That's the only way I knew it was a year.
Yeah, when we've been doing this for a year. Like last week was our 1 year anniversary, I believe.
Because we were starting it like, hey, here's this thing. They're moving Zine Quest up, and you and I are like, let's give it a shot.
Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Next thing you know, Intoximancy.
And now we're syndicated on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook.
Yeah, and you're going to be hosting games at Gamehole Con with Matt Forbeck of Marvel Superheroes and the creator
John Kovalik of Dork Tower, Thomas Crofton of this here heavy Legacy of Mana D&D book. I don't know if I'll ever have a book like this. I like my low zip pamphlets. Yeah, and I think and right now, if you're, one of 2 people watching this and you haven't already got your, if you already haven't backed Star Marshals, please go back Star Marshals. It's at zoop.gg. I got like $600 more to get that funded and get that comic book published. And so, I don't know, Steve. I am so on crowdfunding right now.
I get that. You're helping Zoop get their start, and I think Zoop is still trying to find their footing. I really feel like you're currently the people are still building Zoop's audience. Like I mean, I've gotten emails from them saying, "Hey, do you want to do your next crowdfunding here?" I feel it's like they want me to bring customers to them. I don't feel like they're adding much sauce to you at the moment. I mean, not a knock. It's just the nature of their startup system. I feel like that you've done so well in that ecosystem is a testament to the quality of the work you've done. Like the idea that you're overpowering kind of their interface at the moment. So I feel like if it doesn't work there, you go to Kickstarter, you set your goal wherever you want it to be. Again, it's a thing. If the goal is to be D&D famous, if the goal is to get your name out there and keep putting your stuff up in front of people, and you're going to make it anyway, or heck, you've already made it. Look at all those tchotchkes. You know, that kit of cool stuff. You know, you set the goal for $1,000 and then you actually get to hit your goal quickly and then enjoy the victory lap. I feel like that's the way to go. I think you've earned a victory lap.
If it doesn't succeed, and I'm hoping it does for my sanity and for Zoop, you know, and everybody involved. Though I've already paid everybody involved, so
Right.
they don't care if it succeeds at this point or not. They've been paid. No, I would like to see it get done, and just so I can move on to my other projects. Like I said, you know, I'm finishing my novella right now. I got a novella coming out, Steve.
That's great.
And I'm not going to crowdsource that or crowdfund that one. I'm just putting it out there on Amazon. Say, read it.
That's awesome. Is it something your Patreons are going to get too?
No, it's not zero level media. It's just a whole different thing all by itself.
Awesome.
Just a story I've been working on for years. I just want to get out.
That's great. That's great.
I think we're going for a third. I think I'm somewhere around 30,000 words, so it's not a long read.
All right then.
And if you like rats and you like pirates, it's the book for you.
Well,
and it could very easily be turned into a zero level RPG product. So
that's great.
All right, now you're just patronizing me, Steve. That's great. Yeah, whatever you say, Dan. That's
no, fine. it's I'm a fan.
All right, are we all wrapped up here?
I think we might be.
It's been an hour. My coffee, I got 2 cold swallows left. We are on, I think we're shooting for next week.
Yes.
Then the week after that, I am in New Orleans for NFL kickoff, where my Titans are playing the Saints.
And that's Labor Day weekend?
Yeah.
And the weekend
after. Wait, Labor Day weekend? That's next week's Labor Day weekend. The 4th?
No, next weekend is the 29th. Wait, isn't it? 27th.
Okay, yes. So 3 weeks from now, I will be in New Orleans. So I will be here Labor Day weekend.
And 3 weeks from now, I will be at Baltimore.
When's that?
That's September 10th.
Yeah, okay. That's when I'm in New Orleans.
Okay, so
for football. So we won't have a stream on the 10th, but we will be here on the 27th and the 3rd.
Okay. All right. I'll see you next week.
All right. Great talk as always. Appreciate everybody who stopped by and watched us live. I appreciate everybody who's watching this on video on demand, again, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. You can follow Zero Level Media and all those places there. You can follow Steve Conley at steveconley.com, right?
Sure.
Or wherever. See, now you just got that. Sure. Whatever you say, Dan. Whatever you
no,
say.
I'm at steveconley.com and Intoximancy and Intoximancy.com, deathdealing.com, prayershandbook.com, middleagecomic.com. I got
nobody owns more domain names than Steve and I combined.
I have the domain names for the next 3 Kickstarters I'm doing.
I apparently August is when I buy my domain names because they all got renewed this month, and I'm like, oh, I got to do something with Soul Survivors. SOL Survivors. It's my post-apocalyptic when the sun solar flares destroy Earth. And
I thought it was S out of luck. I thought that's what SOL was standing for.
And it's very much that too. Okay. That's it for now. As always, enjoy talking with you, Steve. And as always, may you always make your saving throws.